Hello, hi, my name is Mo, and today we're going to be investigating Kalvin Garrah. D'Angelo Wallace style, if you will. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, who is Kalvin Garrah? Well, Kalvin Garrah is a 20-year-old trans YouTuber with around 347,000 subscribers at the time of recording. It used to be more than that, but as of late he's lost about 40,000 subscribers, and I want to investigate why that is. Originally this was just going to be one video, but it's gotten far too long, so there's going to be a second part which will come out at some point in the near future. In the first part I want to talk about Kalvin Garrah's time on YouTube and give you a rough timeline of everything that has happened. Obviously I'm not going to be able to include everything, and I'm sure I will have missed certain things, but these are just the events that I think are most important. A lot of people are talking about Kalvin Garrah, but nobody's really broken down everything he has done over the years, and since there is this vacancy, I sort of tasked myself with the job. I am a non-binary transgender person, and I think if anybody is going to break down why his rhetoric was so effective and why it was so damaging, I think it needs to be somebody like me. But without further ado, let's get into part one. Part 1. The beginning. Kalvin Garrah has been posting on the internet for quite a while at this point. His YouTube channel was created on the 1st of October 2011, but the oldest video still up on his channel is a gender-neutral lookbook from February 2016.
This is a black cuff crew neck from Zoomies. I love crew necks and I love the design of this. It's really warm and it's good for the winter because I don't have to wear a jacket.
The second video on his channel is from May 2016 and it's a coming out video. It's actually very touching. It was clearly something important to him, but it was not yet tarnished by the hatred and anger that his later videos would come to possess.
I am trans, and I think the best way to put it is that when I look at myself, even when I had long hair, even when I tried to act in a more feminine way, it always just made me feel more comfortable to identify as male, to look like a guy.
After that, he made your typical YouTube videos that were popular back then. Things like challenges and tags, story times, and even the occasional cover. As well as this, he also documented his medical transition and gave advice to other trans people. And you know, there's nothing really wrong with any of this. At the time, he was a pretty unproblematic figure. He was just a kid having fun on the internet. He was a little bit cringy at times, sure, but I don't think there are many kids who aren't cringy on the internet. I mean, I was pretty bad myself, so I have absolutely no legs to stand on.
Am I the only one who does this with their sheets when they do the washing? Wait, I'm Superman! Woohoo!
But yeah, everyone was cringy when they were a kid, so we won't hold that against him. He grew pretty popular on Musical.ly, now known as TikTok, around 2016 to 2017 as well, collaborating with people like Reagan Beast and Storm Ryan.
Hello YouTube, hello hi. I don't want to get copyright by big music companies, which is why I'm singing this song.
He made your classic lip-sync videos as well as a few covers.
Should've known your love was a game. Now I can't get you out of my brain. Oh, it's such a shame that we don't talk anymore.
That's pretty mean of me to include that. To be fair, he has improved a lot since then. But yeah, as you can see, his content was initially pretty harmless. But of course, with time that all changed, or I wouldn't be talking about it, and his channel underwent a massive shift. The change. The shift began on the 18th of October 2017 when he uploaded a video titled, "I used to be a non-binary SJW and why I'm not anymore."
I used to be a non-binary SJW. I hate to say that.
For those of you who don't know, SJW basically just stands for Social Justice Warrior. It's an insult that conservatives like to throw at people with more progressive views as a quick way to discredit their opinion. If someone is an SJW, they are not worth listening to. They're a sensitive snowflake with no grip on reality. But anyway, this video pretty much marks the beginning of Kalvin's decline. In it, he spoke about how he used to be a non-binary SJW and how he used to believe all these SJW things, but had since changed and now held almost anti-SJW viewpoints because he was a big-brain science boy.
I do have very strong, almost anti-SJW viewpoints nowadays. I do believe that transgenderism or being transgender is a mental disorder.
Things would only escalate from here. After this video, he made a couple more talking about SJWs, for example, reacting to cringy SJW hate comments. He went on to make multiple videos ranting about trans trenders, and just like that, his whole presence online changed. He was no longer just a kid having fun online and talking about his experiences. He was pushing a political ideology without fully realising the ramifications this would have. This new content brought him a lot of new traction, and he began to grow a lot faster than he had been previously. However, it wasn't really until early 2018 that Kalvin's channel really started to blow up. Although I do think the content I just talked about was damaging and it undoubtedly spread very harmful ideals, it wasn't until he started specifically targeting individuals that things really got messy. Brennen. In February 2018, Kalvin uploaded a video titled "Trans Guy Reacts to Crazy Trans Trender." In this video, Kalvin targeted a small non-binary creator named Brennen. I'm not exactly sure how many subscribers he had at the time, but it was probably somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000. Brennen, on the other hand, had only 2,000 subscribers, so already there is this massive power imbalance here. How are you meant to defend yourself against someone who, at the very least, has 25 times more subscribers than you? The answer: you can't really. Now, this video blew up. It reached over 2 million views, and all of a sudden Brennen received an onslaught of really intense and ongoing harassment, seemingly out of nowhere.
So it looks like we're gonna be calling you she. So when she's done playing dress up and pretending like she has a mental illness, I can think of maybe why you hate your body, and I don't think it's because you're trans. That's because you like attention.
They were just existing, making videos and talking about their experiences, and suddenly they had a target on their back. Brennen is actually a really good friend of mine now, and they're honestly a legend. I won't go into too much detail about what happened to them because they've recently spoken out about Kalvin themselves. They have a 3-part series called Breaking My Silence where they talk about what happened to them, how Kalvin's video affected their life, the harassment they faced, and the trauma they developed because of it. I would highly recommend you watch it because it's very powerful. The link is in the description. So as I said, this video went viral. It was up for about 3 years until Kalvin took it down just recently. He took it down during a live stream with Riley Grace Roshong, and let's have a listen to this, shall we?
You made a video about a smaller, way smaller trans YouTuber called Brennen.
That's what I'm talking about. That video that I'm probably going to take down. I was really young there, and I do disagree with a lot of what was said. I don't disagree with some of the criticisms I made. I really don't like people like that speaking up over trans masculine people. Brennen did say some just crazy shit, and they just completely misconstrued what dysphoria is. Like, it was very clearly not dysphoria. That Brennen didn't have that many subscribers, but the video had a lot of views.
Does that sound like somebody who regrets their actions to you? Does that sound like someone who understands the harm they have caused? Because it definitely doesn't to me. Kalvin also claimed that Brennen's video had a lot of views at the time, which is why he reacted to it. You know, to rebut all the false information they were putting out there. You know, the false information. False information where they talked about their own experiences for 13 minutes?
What bothered me is that Brennen is this very obviously, like, female-presenting person who made a video talking about what gender dysphoria is like. And the video had a lot of views at the time, which is why I reacted to it.
That claim he just made there about Brennen's video having lots of views? Big fat lie. And I can prove it. And you know, I'd love to give Kalvin the benefit of the doubt, I really would. But unfortunately for him, the proof I have is actually from one of his Instagram posts. That's a bit awkward, isn't it? As can be seen in this photo posted by Kalvin, the video only had 533 views when he found it. And that's not a lot. Oh, but it must have been so hard for Kalvin to have to take that video down. You know, it was his first video to hit 1 million views. This was a video that really cemented Kalvin's place as an online figure. This was a video that Kalvin built his career on.
Oh my god, that's definitely a trender pose. Like, if you see someone who goes like this, they're definitely a transgender.
Once this video started to blow up, he realised he'd found a niche. He'd found a way to get views, and that was by tearing people down. So what do you do when you find a way to get views, money, clout, attention, or whatever it is you're looking for by posting on YouTube? Well, if you're smart, you capitalize on it. You do more of that thing. You take it even further. And that is exactly what Kalvin did. From here on out, Kalvin's channel was heavily focused around this anti-SJW, anti-transgender narrative. Even videos that weren't directly about it still carried this underlying message. If you go to the comment section on any of these videos, they'll just be full of I identify as an attack helicopter jokes. They will just be full of transphobia because that's what Kalvin is cultivating. So on he went, making more and more videos targeting people. Sometimes it would be in a compilation. Trans guy reacts to crazy SJWs on Instagram, for example. Or perhaps trans guy reacts to SJW haters on Tumblr. Or, and this is a good one, right? Trans guys react to cringy trans TikToks. Yeah. He really did know how to utilise 2016 clickbait, I'll give him that. Videos like this often included compilations of trans people that he would react to. And by react to, I mean laugh at them, bully them, misgender them, joke about what their pronouns might be, make fun of their appearance. Very few things were off limits to Kalvin. And even worse, most of the people featured in these videos were kids or teenagers.
13? You're 13 years old?
Being trans is a mental illness. On the 14th of March 2018, he uploaded a video titled, "Yes, being trans is a mental illness."
I believe that being transgender or having gender dysphoria means that you do have a mental illness.
Honestly, it's just the saddest thing to me. And if his content wasn't so damaging, I would really feel for him. Because I remember what it's like to have that mindset. And it really isn't fun. Being transgender is not a mental illness. It's just part of your identity. It might be the cause of some mental health issues, but it is not one itself. This is what transphobes say to discredit trans people. They say that we are delusional, that we are mentally ill and it's all in our heads. I will never understand why another transgender person would want to claim their identity as a mental illness.
Gender dysphoria is the mental illness that causes you to transition, and when you transition, you're transgender because you have changed your gender. So whether that be when you come out...
Imagine if a gay person was to say that being gay was a mental illness. There would be outrage. So why is it any different with trans people? I think videos like this really do point to the root of his anger. The insecurity. Whether he believes this to be true himself, it is just so glaringly obvious. Kalvin wants to be accepted into cisgender society, and he wants to live a normal life. Bowing down to conservatives, validating their transphobia by agreeing with them, and blending into society provides a safety net. Conforming can be less painful than fighting. If they say he is mentally ill, it doesn't matter, because he agrees with them. Their words can't hurt him as much. And that's why he gets so angry when he sees somebody like Brennen. Because they don't fit like he does. They challenge society's expectations and they challenge his ideas of what it means to be transgender. And he's scared. Because he doesn't want to have to deal with the ramifications that challenging society will have. He doesn't want to be seen as crazy, which is how a large portion of society sees transgender people. Society is not kind to trans people, and the more out there we are, the crueler they are to us. He doesn't want society to see trans people like Brennen because he doesn't want the world to know that we don't all fit perfectly into society like he does. Ashton Daniel. On April the 17th, 2018, Kalvin uploaded a video titled "The Dark Side of Top Surgery." In this video, he included photos of Ashton Daniel's top surgery results and used other pictures as examples of top surgery results that he didn't want. Ashton Daniels is another trans YouTuber with a much smaller platform than Kalvin. Ashton recently made a video talking about his experiences with Kalvin, and I highly recommend you check that out as well. The link is in the description. I actually reached out to Ashton and asked if he wanted to share his thoughts on what happened, and he very kindly agreed. So allow me to read to you what he said. I got top surgery at age 16, nearly 17, and I wanted to be open about it online. Partly for myself and partly because so much of how I learned about top surgery was through other people's recovery videos. When my complications started developing, I wanted to document more because there were so few resources on complications and the intricacies of healing from them. The whole time, I continually talked about how happy I was with my chest and how everyone's body reacts differently to trauma like surgery and reconstruction. I still think that's something really important to talk about with every aspect of transition. Nothing is ever guaranteed, and it's helpful to be knowledgeable about possibilities, even if they aren't 100% positive. There was one specific video of mine from only about 2 months post-op when my complication was finally starting to settle down. I think it's notable that even without a complication, 2 months post-op is nowhere near fully healed for the vast majority of people. But a lot of people, 30,000 as of right now, saw that video and took it as final results. I guess because it was a top surgery video, Kalvin came across it. He then made that video including a screenshot of my chest. He talked about how scared he was for his own top surgery, which is a valid feeling, obviously, but he titled the video "The Dark Side of Top Surgery," and it was framed just as his typical videos, mocking SJWs, talking about transness as a mental illness, etc.
I'm gonna have the SJWs being like, pretend I'm an SJW. He's still really annoying and like super transphobic, but like, I'd sit on it.
The video including my chest now has over 250,000 views. He claims in the comments that he only included photos as examples of complications, but he gave me no warning. He never asked me if he could use and imply disgust towards my body that was still in the process of healing. There were a few people in his comments that recognised my chest, and some defended me, but it also meant that less well-meaning people now knew who I was. The amount of comments I got telling me I mutilated or ruined myself, calling me slurs, commenting on my weight, my voice, anything remotely feminine about me, was horrifying, especially as someone who had just turned 17 with an internet presence a fraction of the size of Kalvin's. He's now gone back and clipped out the parts with anyone's photos, but his own comments in the video clearly refer to me
because, not only do I see results that are kind of fucked up, I don't want huge ass motherfucking this big owl eye nipples. I've seen people lose nipples.
And there are a couple of relatively amicable exchanges between us in the comments. Even if the whole thing was a mistake or naive misuse of power, it felt so targeted at the time. One of his friends, Storm Ryan, commented on the video like my existence was some kind of inside joke to them. He had no problem leaving up comments calling the photos he included, not just mine either, nightmarish, ugly, horrifying, etc. I think the whole thing speaks to his willingness to place value judgments on others' bodies without their input. It's just completely unjustifiable in my mind to take photos of someone else's healing body, use it as an example of your fears, and do the bare minimum of removing those parts of the video while allowing commenters to reproduce vitriol towards people whose bodies aren't considered perfect by their arbitrary standards. So there we are. Even when Kalvin is not explicitly attacking someone for being a trans-trender, he is still causing harm. He is so irresponsible with his platform, and he is incapable of adequately addressing such sensitive topics. The video contains a lot of misinformation, and one could argue fear-mongering. The way he talks about anesthesia and the process of top surgery as a whole is pretty irresponsible. Now, I understand being scared that your results might not look the way that you want them to. I am scared that my results might not look the way I want them to. A couple of years ago, I thought I was going to be able to get keyhole surgery because my chest was very small, but I'm not 16 anymore, and my body has changed, so now my chest is probably too big for keyhole, and that sucks. That really, really sucks. And I'm scared, because in New Zealand there are no places to look up surgery results. We just don't have those resources here. So I understand the anxiety. But using another person's body as an example of what you don't want to look like is just so cruel. That's their body you're talking about. Imagine for a second that it was your body on screen. You, the person who was watching this. Imagine what it would be like to have somebody with such a massive platform make a video pointing at your body and saying, "I don't want to look like this." How terrible do you think that would make you feel? Kalvin's channel is deleted. In August 2018, something surprising happened, and a lot of people don't seem to know this happened at all, but Kalvin Garrah's channel was actually deleted. He had 2 strikes on his channel, and when he released a video titled SJWs Have Small Dick Energy, he received his final strike and his channel was removed. Eventually, however, after a few days of outrage and contacting lots of people at YouTube, he managed to get his channel back. YouTube said it had been taken down by mistake.
I posted a video called SJWs Have Small Dick Energy, and that video got flagged. That video breaks no community guidelines, and that was my 3rd flag, so my channel got terminated. They told me that my YouTube channel was taken down by mistake. That's what I was eventually told.
So Kalvin continued, this time with an even bigger vendetta against the SJWs, because to him, this was proof that they were out of control. Now, there was a little bit of drama around this situation, but I won't go into it too much because I don't think it's really that relevant to the story in the long run. But basically, Chase Ross, another trans YouTuber who Kalvin had beef with in the past, reached out to him to help him get his channel back, saying that despite their differences, he didn't want to see a trans person removed from the platform. Chase put him in contact with the guy that, according to Kalvin, was the main reason he got his channel back.
Chase DM'd me, and then started sending me the ads of several people who would be able to help me get my channel back. So this is when I got my channel back, and I said, thank you for helping, man. I'm pretty sure that that guy is the reason I got it back.
However, it was later revealed that Chase Ross was one of the reasons his channel got deleted in the first place.
Spoiler, Chase Ross is the reason that my channel got deleted. After I made the video about him, was mad at the backlash that he was getting, Chase decided to send his friends on a mass flagging spree so that Chase could then swoop in, get my channel back, so that I would stop talking about him.
Chase encouraged his friends to go and mass flag Kalvin's videos because he was annoyed that Kalvin made a video on him. His logic was supposedly that if he could get on Kalvin's good side by helping him out, he would stop making videos on him. Honestly, I don't know, it's all a bit bizarre. At the end of the day, it's just a load of petty YouTuber drama, and although the details are not that important in the grand scheme of things, it definitely added fuel to the fire. It spurred him on, and he went in even harder at the SJWs, which would lead to even greater harm than before. The T-slur voice. One of the things that Kalvin would pick out and ridicule when reacting to people was their voice.
Also, I would bet at least $20 that as soon as I click the video, this guy's gonna have the tranny voice. Okay, guys, so we're gonna start listening to this video right now. Tranny voice.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
He coined the term the T-slur voice. On September the 22nd, 2018, he dedicated an entire video to it. This concept is just flat out transphobic and honestly homophobic as well. It is essentially the gay voice but rebranded. And it's toxic. It's so toxic. It feeds into the fears of young trans men, making them feel insecure for things they shouldn't. If you search up the T-slur voice on Twitter, you'll find thousands of tweets from people terrified that they will end up with this voice. I've even seen people claim that it is something trans trenders get, like the universe is punishing them for going on testosterone when they're not really trans.
But I have noticed that a lot of SJWs have it. I don't know why, but it's just funny to me that they end up with it. Probably because a lot of transgenders who go on T, they get the voice because like they don't hate their female voice. They don't really care that they're speaking like a girl, and it'll end up sounding like this because they're still talking like a girl.
The whole thing is so sad too, because there's nothing inherently wrong with this voice. And if you genuinely do want to change it, it's not even that difficult. You just have to practice speaking from your chest. Because that's all this voice is. It's just a result of where you speak from. If you were to speak more from around your throat or your face, you'd likely have a more nasally tone, i.e. the T-slur voice. Women tend to speak from up here because it sounds more meek, and apparently society wants women to be soft, delicate little creatures that need protecting. So anyway, if a trans man who grew up as a girl was subjected to all the social pressures that women usually face, it's more likely that they will speak like that. Because that's what they grew up doing and that's what they used to. There are loads of little exercises you can do to change this. I'm an actor and we were trained to resonate, which means to speak from your chest. But now there are so many young trans people who are terrified they will develop this voice and be seen as a trender. And all because of what? Stupid fear-mongering from Kalvin Garrah? I honestly can't understand how he could get away with posting things like this. Imagine if a cis person was talking about the T-slur voice. Can you imagine the reaction? It would be so different. That person would instantly be called out for their transphobia, and rightly so. But because Kalvin is trans himself, he is allowed to say stuff like this? I don't think he should.
It's important to acknowledge the origins and legacy of the T-slur. Not only is Kalvin harming trans masculine people, but the use of the T-slur is charged with violence and generational trauma specifically against trans women and other people who are directly affected by trans misogyny. Trans misogyny is the intersection of trans antagonism and misogyny, the oppressions faced by trans women and those society perceives as trans women. Although others may be indirectly affected by trans misogyny, its targets are exclusively those expected to perform a masculine role due to their assigned sex, whose gender identity and/or expression is feminine or perceived as feminine. The normalization of the T-slur as something undesirable by Kalvin is not only harmful, but downright dangerous.
Lars. On the 7th of March 2019, Kalvin uploaded a video titled, "No, you can't identify as autism gender." In this video, he attacked a person called Lars. Lars is a disabled, non-binary trans person, and in this video, as had come to be expected on the Kalvin Garrah YouTube channel, he ruthlessly tore into every aspect about Lars. Except this time it was even more serious. In this video, which is still up at the time of recording, he raises the question of whether Lars was faking their disability.
But Lars is a special case because, little update on our friend Lars, I've heard that they are actually trans-abled now. They are in a wheelchair, but can seemingly perfectly walk. Now I understand, there might be some illnesses out there and stuff where the wheelchair user can actually walk, but it's just like, I don't know why you flex being in a wheelchair. I feel like you want those oppression points, those precious oppression points.
That's right. Kalvin Garrah, in his almighty wisdom, just accused someone he had never met before of faking their disability with no evidence whatsoever. It's really interesting, Kalvin, because I had no idea you were a health professional. I thought you was just a law student. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Criminal justice major. Oh, well, maybe I was wrong about that too. Because surely, Mr. Garrah, surely you would know, what with your big law student brain and everything, that is a very serious accusation to throw out there. Accusations like that could really impact someone's life, don't you think? But alas, I guess we will never know just how much his videos impacted Lars. Oh wait, that's right, we can. Because I have a friend who knows Lars. Yeah, I was able to reach out to them and they very kindly took the time to share their story with me, so I could tell it to you. Before Kalvin made a video about me, I thought it was just a big joke and that no one in their right mind would believe what he was saying. But I was so wrong. I'm honestly still astounded that people genuinely believe what he says. I tagged him in a few posts calling him a bootlicker, and I had these following conversations with him. But then he made the video about me. The video itself is entirely lies. If it was solely about me supposedly being a transtrender, it wouldn't have been so harmful. But he started the idea that I'm faking being disabled, or that I'm transabled, or whatever bullshit he spouted. This has legitimately had some very serious and negative consequences for me. After Kalvin, Blaire White also made a video about me and specifically said I was faking my disabilities as well.
So the worst part about it is obviously this person claiming to be trans when it's just some girl with way too much time on her hands or too much free time at the mental ward. This person is sitting in a wheelchair and claims to be disabled, but then there's also times where you can catch her standing and walking. So it's like just some crazy shit going on.
As a result, I've been posted onto Illness Fakers Gone Wild and other forums like that. Most people on these forums are true scum if they're trans, or TERFs. The woman who ran Illness Fakers Gone Wild is a straight up TERF, self-admitted. When I was admitted as an inpatient in the psych ward in 2019, a fellow patient was live blogging my time there to Kalvin and other YouTubers, despite the fact that I was crying over how bad it makes me feel. It didn't matter that I was literally in the psych ward because I'd tried to kill myself. The other patient recognised me and asked if I was Lars. My legal name is different, and I said yes. We had a brief conversation about it, but otherwise I said it was none of his business. Then I got a message from someone else who was there at the same time, who knew him outside of the ward, and they told me about what he had been doing. It actually explained why everyone there had been acting so weird around me. It caused tension, and some of the other patients ended up ganging up on me. It was ridiculous. They all started being nasty to me. They'd call me names, exclude me, talk behind my back and whisper loudly so I could hear. I ended up being discharged several days early because of all this, and it was so traumatizing. I ended up with a lot of extra issues after this. The only reason I haven't reported that person is because he spends the majority of his time there due to mental health, and if I report it, he'll get kicked out. No one wants to associate with me. I can't even post my real-life friends on social media because they will get attacked by people too. People drop me without hesitation. There's literally nothing I can do about it. A few times I've even been recognised in public. I'm scared to go out. I'm scared to go to the hospital or to physio appointments because some people on those forums are medical professionals themselves. I found one of them and they worked at a big hospital in my city. I'm even scared to order off Etsy in case one of them happens to post there and then they have my address. I'm on a disability support pension and have national disability insurance. These are lifelong supports that I got at age 21 and 22 respectively. People have made complaints to the government agencies about me, trying to get my payments and coverage cancelled. Jesus, that's pretty intense, isn't it? These videos Kalvin makes have real-life consequences for real-life people. I cannot even begin to imagine how difficult that must have been for Lars. I think it is absolutely disgusting that these videos have been allowed to remain on YouTube for so long. Kalvin and his audience have completely dehumanized Lars to the point where they don't even recognize Lars as a person. And it is this dehumanization that allows them to be so cruel. To them, Lars is simply a representation of what they are fighting against. Lars is a transtrender, an SJW personified, rather than a living, breathing human with feelings and emotions of their own. And what's worse, is Kalvin so proud of this video, he's made it his bloody channel trailer. That video is the first thing he wants people to see when they click on his channel. That is where Kalvin wants people to get their first impressions of him from. And doesn't that just say an awful lot about him as a person? Blaire White. In June 2019, Kalvin Garrah and Blaire White collaborated in person for the first time. They had shown support for each other on social media a little bit before that, but this was the first time they'd actually collaborated in person. Blaire White is a staunch conservative and she has ties to literal white nationalists. She's just all round a bad person. She constantly lies about people and twists the truth, one of the most recent examples of this being the situation between her and Janae Marie Kroc, a transgender bodybuilder who was a victim of her lies. Of course, guilt by association can sometimes be a very reductive way of looking at things, but there are instances where I really do think it is indicative of a person's character. Now for some real talk, I associated myself with some rather bad people when I first started YouTube, and I really regret that. But the difference between me and Kalvin is that I wasn't aware of how bad they were. I was naive and ignorant, but as soon as I realised how bad they were, and as soon as I realised my mistakes, I stopped associating with them completely. I unfollowed them and I called them out on their bullshit. I listened to people who knew more than me, and I changed accordingly. Blaire White's behaviour and political leanings are well known on the internet. She has been called out on her rubbish numerous times. There is no question as to whether or not Blaire White has poor moral character. So what is Kalvin's excuse for associating with her after he knows of her actions? Well, there isn't really one, is there? Supporting a TERF. On August the 12th, 2019, Kalvin supported a TERF on Twitter who went by the username gynosupremacist. Researching the situation was really interesting and it definitely surprised me. Of course, Kalvin being transphobic is nothing out of the ordinary, but he'd been pretty vocal about his disdain towards TERFs, so this was not something I was expecting to find. This was a different kind of transphobic rhetoric. Now, it should be known that the user he defended here was explicitly transphobic. She had the phrase "TERF is a slur" in her bio, and countless tweets attacking the trans community. She had tweets stating trans women are male, for God's sake. And as with a lot of TERFs, her rhetoric was mainly focused around trans women. And at first I thought perhaps this was why Kalvin was more open to defending her, since he wasn't the main target of her bigotry. But as can be seen from the screenshot of a DM conversation between Kalvin and gynosupremacist, he was all too willing to throw trans men under the bus too. I don't know why this surprised me though, considering his entire channel is dedicated to doing just that. Anyway, he put out this tweet claiming, "She's actually chill and not as radical as y'all were making her out to be." Really? It's also worth mentioning that he had around 26,000 Twitter followers at the time he platformed this woman. Kalvin did later go on to delete his tweets defending her and claimed to have no idea she was being contradictory, which I must say is a really funny word to describe transphobic, but whatever. The TERF he initially supported has since been suspended from Twitter, and I have no desire to try and find where she is now. The account Kalvin was using at the time has also been suspended, so all their interactions are gone, and I haven't been able to find any more screenshots of the situation. According to this article here though, which is where I got most of this information, in the days following he made a considerable effort to make fun of other TERFs and allegedly blocked anyone who would bring up the incident. This article is very well written and I'd recommend giving it a read if you want more information. As always, the link is in the description. I do think it's interesting though, the way Kalvin tried to hide this situation. If you are so passionate about rational discourse as he claims to be, why would you block people for calling you out and who are justifiably upset by your actions? Especially when you obviously agree, on some level at least, that you made a mistake. Otherwise, why delete your tweets? Exposing your 26,000 Twitter followers to TERF ideology is dangerous. You are implicitly telling people that their arguments hold weight when all the research shows otherwise. Something this article says, which I really do agree with, is this. When you're debating somebody, you're putting both ideologies up on equal platforms, and TERF ideology is something based in fear-mongering and violence, and is not something that can be considered a reasonable opinion to hold. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't debate TERFs at all. I'm just saying you have to be careful and responsible with who you are platforming. It is a fact that some opinions people hold are wrong and contribute to the demonization of a marginalized community. We need to be cautious who we give the time of day. Noah. In September 2019, Kalvin made a video attacking a non-binary person called Noah. This video was bad, and when I say bad, I mean really bad. He crossed a lot of boundaries that he should have known not to cross. The video was removed either by YouTube or by him, I'm not entirely sure. But whatever the case, it is no longer up and I can't find a copy of it anywhere.
Fuck a fat queer! Ah, yeah, bitch! Oh yeah, I'm gonna go off today. Fuck a fat queer! It's like so crazy because this person presents as a female, like as a woman. I don't understand fat people that act like being fat is a personality trait. I personally have no problem with fat people. Fuck a fat queer! And they act like it's their like personality to be fat. So it's like we're gonna see a lot of that here. I might just go out on a limb and say that I don't really think this person should be on testosterone. I get the image description is for people who have like bad eyesight, but it's like I don't know why you're on Instagram if you're blind anyways.
Noah understandably didn't take this well. The onslaught of harassment they were suddenly receiving was just too much for them to handle, and they tried to take their own life. Kalvin's response when he found out about this was just... it really showcases how callous and cruel he can be. I can't really find the right words to describe it, so I'll just play some clips for you now.
Hey Ben.
It ain't his fault if you little bitch.
I watched the video. I didn't say anything that bad. I really didn't. You know, there's no way that girl actually tried killing herself. No. Here's the thing. If somebody wants to kill themselves, they don't go on the internet screaming, I'm gonna kill myself, I killed myself, I'm going to the hospital right now. Even if this person did, in fact, try to kill herself, like, at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for something that she did. I didn't fucking queer Noah, stop. It's just I didn't do anything, like, legally, or honestly even morally wrong.
I don't think I need to add any commentary to that. I don't think I need to explain why making fun of someone who just tried to take their own life because they cannot handle the harassment they were receiving because of you is really not okay. After lots of searching, I actually managed to track Noah down and talk to them about what happened. They were willing to share their story with me, and they've very kindly given me permission to include it in this video. So here is Noah's story. In September 2019, I was literally just living my life when suddenly I started getting tons of messages and notifications. People were informing me that Kalvin had made a video about me. I was completely shocked because my account was relatively small and I'd never talked to him before. I still haven't to this day. I'd seen other people I know go through this, so I knew exactly what was coming. I had a full-on mental breakdown. I deal with a lot of mental health issues, and I was really open about it on my Instagram.
This is one of those people who, of course, lists their mental illnesses in their bio like it's their zodiac sign. Like, if this person had in their bio, like, anxious neurodivergent CSA survivor, and then, like, cancer with, like, the astrology sign, like, that would make this a 10 out of 10, even though it's already, like, a 10 out of 10.
The comments on the video were fucking horrendous. I didn't watch the video at first, but the comments and direct messages I was getting were too much to handle. It was bad enough that people were calling me a transgender and misgendering me, but that wasn't even the worst part. I was really open about the sexual abuse I faced as a child because I wanted to feel less alone, and I felt that it tied into my view of gender. After I started T, I made a joke about having orgasms or whatever, and Kalvin included that part in the video. There were so many comments calling me creepy, and after what I experienced in my childhood, that just ruined me. Then there were the comments about my weight. Picking apart my body, it was all too much. I can handle criticism, but this wasn't criticism. It was just plain bullying. After a lot of spiraling, I did attempt suicide. I don't want to go into the details of that. I don't have any family, only my partner. At the time, I didn't have any real-life friends, just an online community. So my partner posted to her Instagram what had happened because she was so pissed off and scared. It wasn't up long, but it started blowing up on Twitter and Instagram. It was honestly a nightmare. I remember seeing the Instagram stories that Kalvin posted where him and his friend were laughing, and my heart just dropped. I think I lost a lot of faith in humanity when that happened. That week felt like a fever dream, and I don't totally remember everything that happened next because I was just not in my right mind or body. I requested for the video to be taken down by YouTube, and it was. I really just wanted the whole thing to go away and for things to go back to normal, but it never did. I felt embarrassed, and I didn't want to be pitied. I didn't want the attention, I never did. I tried to go back to posting, but I was traumatized, and I decided to leave the internet forever. I just made this account, and I've been hiding out here with a very small amount of people that I can trust. It's good for me, but I never recovered. I've been dealing with psychosis ever since. I'm really paranoid all the time. I can't leave my house, and I think people are always laughing at me. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. I don't say this stuff because I want people to feel sorry for me. It's just a fact. I never recovered. I stopped going to therapy because I thought my therapist would laugh at me if I told her what happened. I have a really hard time having close relationships with anybody. I feel so much shame for simply existing. I don't want to make Kalvin feel bad. I don't blame him 100%, though I think he does need to take accountability. It's likely I was always going to deal with serious mental health problems. I haven't had an easy life, but Kalvin triggered a lot of it to come out, and in full force. Now I have to pick up the pieces. I think it's important for people to know how his victims are affected by these videos. Kalvin can do whatever he wants, but there are consequences for his actions, and I have to live with those consequences. What can you even say to that? I don't really know if there's anything you can say. I think Noah's words speak for themselves. These are real people that Kalvin is affecting. Korviday. On the 22nd of September 2019, a YouTuber called Korviday released a video titled Kalvin Garrah, The Dangers of Transgender Bullying. This video was possibly the first video against Kalvin Garrah to actually do well. Up until this point, anyone who tried to call him out had been viciously dogpiled by his fans. However, the response this video got was different. For the most part, people seem to agree, and I think this video marks the beginning of a shift away from Kalvin's content. From here on out, the dialogue around Kalvin really started to change. Kalvin, however, despite how much he wants you to believe it, hasn't changed. Since Korviday released this video, Kalvin has continued to do the same thing he has always done. He has been involved in multiple other scandals, including such gems as calling an autistic person the arsler, targeting multiple trans children, and making lovely videos such as "No, being fat doesn't make you transgender." I guess he didn't bother to take on board any of the criticisms Korviday levied at him. The Cavetown beef. Something else I want to briefly cover is the beef that Kalvin got into with Cavetown. And to be honest, I don't really think beef is the right word here, because it was more just Kalvin getting butthurt when he found out Cavetown didn't like him. Cavetown is a musician, for those of you who don't know. From what I can gather, this happened sometime around September 2019, but I can't find exact dates, so don't quote me on that. Kalvin actually made a video about it, which has since been deleted, but it is up on his Patreon. From what I can find, the general gist of it was that Cavetown liked a few tweets shading Kalvin, and it came out that Cavetown didn't want Kalvin at his concerts, presumably because many of his fans felt unsafe around Kalvin. And I just can't imagine why that might be.
All of a sudden, you have your concert security walking around with a picture of me in hand. Like, what if I had bought a ticket to your show? Are you just gonna kick me out for no reason?
But whatever the case, Kalvin didn't take this news very well at all. Kalvin has been a bit, well, obsessed with Cavetown for a few years now. Man's probably had a bit of a parasocial relationship going. And hey, I have ADHD myself, and I get hyperfixated on TV shows, musicians, activities, whatever, so I understand that, and I'm not chastising him for it. I know if my favourite musician, Bren, was to come out and say, "I hate Mo," I'd be absolutely gutted. I'd probably reflect a little bit on why that might be, but it's his response to Cavetown doing this that is the interesting thing. Instead of taking some time to reflect on why Cavetown had done this, instead of thinking about why people didn't feel safe with him at Cavetown's concerts, instead of asking himself why the content he was creating was so harmful that Cavetown didn't want to associate with him, even when Kalvin had been publicly supporting his music for years, instead of doing any of this, he chose to double down. Kalvin went off at Cavetown. He ranted about how he'd been supporting his music for years, revealing that he and Cavetown had actually DM'd a bit in the past.
It's really just that, like, we've talked before. We've obviously had pretty long conversations before. So yes, I have every right to be mad about it, especially because I promoted and supported his music for so many years. And then he had all the audacity to be nice to me in DMs, but then like and retweet random mean things about me. Like, what is that about?
He basically just called Cavetown a massive snake for not wanting to associate with him. Kalvin made videos about him, constantly joked about him, and started referring to him as Cavern City, I guess out of pettiness. Even after this, he still continues to cover Cavetown songs and post about his music. And I do find it a bit strange. Surely it would be better to just let it go and listen to someone else, because whatever Kalvin is doing right now is clearly not helping him get over the situation. He's made multiple jokes and comments about how he's still going to attend Cavetown's concerts, he's just going to go undercover.
Hello YouTube, hello hi. I don't want to get copyright by big music companies, which is why I'm singing this song.
I don't find this funny at all. I really don't. I think it shows a clear disregard for other people's boundaries, something that seems to be a theme with Kalvin. It just comes across as incredibly entitled. Kalvin, you don't have a right to go to a concert. If people don't want you there because of things you have done, you have to accept that. Kalvin's decline. As time went on, more and more people began to come out with videos against Kalvin, myself being one of them. The two most notable videos that came out of this were from Adrian the Alien and Gender Desecration. The tides were changing. On the 26th of April, I made my first video on Kalvin Garrah, titled Kalvin Garrah is Dangerous, Investigating Online Harassment. I probably only had about 300 subscribers at the time, and it's not a very good video if I'm honest, but I released it at a really interesting time. At this point, the community was really quite split when it came to Kalvin, and the responses I got were varied. I got a decent amount of negative comments from Kalvin fans, and the like to dislike ratio was probably about 200 likes to 60 dislikes, but overall the response was positive. On the 28th of May, the TikToker Gender Desecration released a video to the YouTube channel Valentine Arkley titled Kalvin Garrah Be Slightly Mature and Stop Picking on Teenagers Challenge. Gender Desecration, also known as Brittany, is a gender non-conforming trans guy. He's also 15 years old. He was 15 years old when Kalvin included him in a video he made reacting to cringy trans TikToks. He's literally a child, yet Kalvin thinks it's okay to rip into him in front of his massive audience because he what? Wears dresses? Kalvin seems to think that because Brittany wears dresses, he must be a trans-trender. Kalvin also seems to think that this gives him the right to go after Brittany on his public platform and doesn't seem to care that he's opening him up to a ton of harassment. I mean, it's already bad enough if Brittany was an adult, but considering he's a child? But is it really that surprising? This kind of thing hasn't stopped Kalvin before, although I think this was the first time one of the kids he bullied really fought back, or at least fought back effectively.
I don't know what this person's doing. No hate to them.
No hate to them. But this is the 4th time that you have openly mocked me on a public account. Somehow, even though they're in my TikTok bio, which I'm sure you've seen many times, judging by the amount of times you've harassed me, my pronouns are he, him. The fact that you don't like me does not take away my right to be gendered properly. Thank you.
Brittany's video has about 70,000 views at the time of recording, and in it he basically just tore apart all the stupid things that Kalvin Garrah said, and then told him to leave him alone.
And you choose to look like a girl because you're lazy?
Actually, I choose to dress like this because it's tight as fuck.
It's a fun watch. Then a little bit later, on the 20th of June, Adrian the Alien released a video titled Why I No Longer Support Kalvin Garrah. In this video, he talks openly about how he used to be a big supporter of Kalvin, but had since come to realise how toxic and damaging his content was.
What X-ray vision, superhuman ability do you possess that you could look at a person and determine if they're really trans or not?
This video did pretty well. It currently sits at around 80,000 views. It seems that a lot of people were able to relate to his experience with the type of trans-medicalist rhetoric Kalvin preaches. I don't know about the others, but I know that the responses to my video have changed a lot since I first put them out. Over the recent months, the discourse has continued to drift away from Kalvin and his outdated opinions. The comments I get on it now are almost completely positive. The pushback I got at the start is just not there anymore. It's really fascinating how much discourse can change over the course of a few months. Arielle Scarcella. In July 2020, Kalvin released a video disavowing Arielle Scarcella. Arielle Scarcella is a lesbian YouTuber who has come under fire for being a massive transphobe. If I had to pick a side, I'd definitely be with Kalvin here. I think Arielle Scarcella is far more transphobic than he is. However, I actually think Kalvin has done far more damage than she has. Arielle has not ruined people's lives in the same way Kalvin has. I mean, at least to my knowledge, Arielle Scarcella has never driven someone to attempt suicide. Kalvin's rhetoric is far more powerful because it is coming from a trans person. Cis people will watch his content and regurgitate his transphobic talking points with the belief that they are helping the trans community. Young trans people will go to him to educate themselves on their identities and leave with prejudices they did not carry before. So I do find it ironic that Kalvin has the audacity to call Arielle Scarcella out for being transphobic when his whole channel was predicated on transphobia itself.
I can no longer support you and your content publicly. I can't do that because I think a lot of the content that Arielle puts out is just bait for TERFs.
Not to mention the fact that less than a year ago he defended a TERF who was far more transphobic than Arielle Scarcella. Of course his opinions could have changed since then, and he did retract his support for that TERF in the end, but it's inconsistencies like this that really muddle the water. It's not clear what Kalvin believes anymore. He says his opinions have changed, but he hasn't offered much evidence for that. Does he still believe that the trans community is a cult convincing 15-year-old girls with body issues to become boys? Because if so, are his opinions really all that different to Arielle's? Riley Grace Roshong. On the 7th of August 2020, Kalvin Garrah went on to Riley Grace Roshong's livestream and had a chat about his opinions. In the livestream, he talked about his change in opinions and how he was, I don't know, growing? But anyway, 4 days after this livestream where he showed such an incredible openness to change, he released a video with Blaire White reacting to Milo Stewart in which they both viciously tore into them for 20 minutes. It included such gold as this.
All this fucking shit is just like political because it's like, she's, I mean,
they. Can you say they, Blaire? Have you ever used they pronoun? It's really hard when you look like a girl, no offense.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So much for growth and change, huh? He very quickly deleted this video, however, once he started getting a bit of backlash. It is interesting to note, though, that he never actually said sorry. Well, at least not publicly. He just deleted the video and continued as if nothing had happened. Some people have mentioned that he probably filmed the video before he went on Riley's livestream, as if that's some kind of excuse. I'm sorry, but I think that's a load of garbage. So what if he did? He still uploaded it thinking it was okay. Who cares when he filmed it? I just want to add, in case it comes off this way, I'm not attacking Riley here for having Kalvin onto her livestream. I understand why she'd want to get him on there. It makes for good content, and it's not like she's agreeing with his takes. I do think, however, Riley, if you're watching this, allow me to give you some criticism. You warned me not to associate with people like Mars because I'd get caught up in their bullshit.
The point I'm trying to get at is that, like, I understand that you want to ascribe him a lot of good faith and charitability, but he hasn't changed his mind. In fact, he's just kind of dug his heels in. The reason I bring this up is because, like, he's not the person that you think he is, Mo.
You said that trying to bridge the gap is dangerous and some people aren't reachable. You were right. In my defense, I was much more naive as to the way YouTube worked and I didn't understand who I was associating myself with. But looking back now, it's very clear. So Riley, let me flip that back on to you now. Do you think that Kalvin has done enough to show change? What about all those people whose lives he ruined? Do you think it's okay to just sweep that under the rug? Because I don't. I'm not saying he can't change, and I am most certainly not telling you who you should associate with, but I am asking you what you asked me. Breaking my silence. Brennen Beckwith released their video on Kalvin on the 19th of October 2020, which is coincidentally my birthday. Yes, I did just make their really important moment all about me. I'm a YouTuber, most of us are probably narcissists. Anyway, this video had a massive impact. It received overwhelming support, and as of now it has about 340,000 views. Brennen pretty much decimated Kalvin, and They didn't even have to say much because Kalvin's arguments fall apart surprisingly quickly when they're put up to scrutiny. The day this video was released was the day Kalvin lost his little war against the trans-trenders. Brennen may have made Kalvin's career, but they also ended it. Kalvin had been battling an imaginary army for all these years, and you can only do that for so long. When you create an opposition out of straw, it's only a matter of time before people realise that the people you're fighting against don't exist, or at least not in the way they're being portrayed. These trans-trenders Kalvin targets, they're real people, individuals who are just trying to live their lives. It was only a matter of time before one of them spoke up and said, "Hey, you were wrong about me." He twisted the narrative so much he made them his enemy, and they suffered because of it. He waged war on people who weren't fighting him to begin with. In fact, they should have been his allies. But he made it seem like they were the attackers. Because he is so insecure, their very existence was like an attack on his identity. But as more and more people are beginning to realise, thanks to videos like Brennan's, the trans community is not, and never was, under attack from trans-trenders. Neo-pronouns. Kalvin tried to keep going. On the 30th of November 2020, Kalvin released a video titled, "How Neo-pronouns Hurt Trans People." However, after Brennan's video and after everything else that had been going on, people were having none of it. The like to dislike ratio on that video is just terrible, and the comments are filled with people telling him to shut up. It's over for Kalvin, and I think he knows it. He can no longer make the content he was making. People just don't want to see it anymore. Kalvin is stuck. He backed himself into a corner and he doesn't know how to escape it. The trans community has moved on, the discourse has evolved, and Kalvin Garrah is still living in the past. Despite what he may claim, his opinions haven't changed all that much. He's not willing to grow, and so he has nowhere else to go.
Ryan and I make a lot of videos on my Patreon together. We just have a lot of things we like to say. Can't say it on YouTube because we'll get canceled or whatever. So if you want more controversial content, I post it on my Patreon.
It's a shame that I am not such a shitty person, because if I was, I'd be going straight to his Patreon and reacting to the content he has on there. Because judging by the titles alone, it's not very good. But of course, if I did do that, he'd be able to take my video down anyway, so what can I do? Where are we now? Well, there we are. We have now reached the end of the timeline. Where do we go from here? What happens to Kalvin now? Do we just let his channel slowly fade into irrelevance? I mean, if we really look at it, Kalvin's channel hasn't been doing that well for some time now. His growth plateaued at around 386,000 subscribers all the way back in May, and his subscriber count has been falling ever since then. He is now sitting at just 347k, nearly 40,000 subscribers less than at his peak. His channel took quite a hit after the release of Brennan's video, and I suspect this number will continue to drop. There's nothing he can say to make himself look good. But now that we've covered that, now that we've done an extensive dive into his history, I think it's time we step back and looked at the wider picture. So my friends, buckle up as we are soon to enter part 2. In part 2, I want to raise the question, why was he so popular and why has that suddenly changed? So here I will talk about him as a person, the rhetoric he uses, the way he reacts to conflict, and how he feeds into transphobic ideology. But I also want to talk about my own experiences with transmedicalism and the negative effect that Kalvin Garrah's content had on me when I was a kid trying to figure out my identity. But for today, that is the end of the video, and if you managed to sit all the way through it, thank you so much, you little legend. If you want to support the channel and my work, feel free to subscribe, or if you're feeling extra generous, you can pledge to my Patreon. The link is in the description. You can find me on all my social media. I'm Cops Hate Mo on everything. And that is all I have to say for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you had a lovely day. Stay safe, and I'll see ya. Guys, how do I sit on the floor without killing my leg? Holy moly. Jesus Christ. Oh. Yeah. I'm not being melodramatic, I swear.
Like, I've really been recently trying to open my heart and like be nice, but like I just can't. Like, this is a transgender. Like, this is a transgender. This is somebody that literally calls themselves a male, is on testosterone, but then identifies as like non-binary for oppression points.